All right, so here, chicos, you can see we've got this set of notes. Now, I went over this earlier this year, and you know, it was very involved notes. But I think at this point, we should be able to simplify this a lot. You can see over in this area right here, this was something I said I would get to. Whoopsie. Something I said I would get to later on. I said, I said más tarde for nosotros and vosotros. But at this point, you should have already watched the nosotros video and the vosotros video, and hopefully understand that fairly well. So what I'm going to do right here, this is a quick summary of all the conjugations, and more or less, it's subjunctive is what you have to know. If you know subjunctive conjugations, and I've said this in other videos, this isn't a video that's going to teach you how to conjugate in the subjunctive. So if you don't know those, you don't feel comfortable with those, go back and watch the subjunctive conjugation videos, one by one. You try to understand stem changing rules and spell changing rules, and understand the yo form, all that stuff. Okay, so here I'm going to just kind of go through each one just very quickly, and hopefully it'll make some sense. So I'm going to start off right here with the informal commands. So these informal commands are right here. We've got I'm looking at this section right here, to affirmative to start off with. Now this is a little bit different. This is going to be that third person singular form of the present indicative conjugation. So here's, hablar, conjugated out, hablo, hablas, habla, hablamos, habláis, hablan. We're talking about this conjugation right here, habla, the third person singular command is the form we need to use for the informal affirmative commands. There are 8 main exceptions, and you can see them all listed right here. They're the Vin Diesel words. Ven, di, sal, asten, be, ponce. Right? From venir, decir, salir, hacer, tener, ir, poner, in, ser. The negative commands is the to form of the subjunctive. So if you know your rules about the subjunctive, then you'll know that we're supposed to, at this point, we are going to the yo form, dropping the o, adding the opposite ending, and that's what all of these over here do. We've got no hables, that was from hablo, drop the o, opposite ending is an e, and an s at the end. So that's what subjunctive is, right? Hables is the to form of hablar. Comas is the to form of comer. Escribas is the to form of escribir. Vayas, it's irregular, but it is the to form of ir. Vengas is the to form subjunctive, present tense subjunctive of venir. Estés, the to form of estar in the present subjunctive. So that's really all you have to know. If you understand subjunctive, know that negative commands, when we're talking about the informal, 2 commands, we're talking about the negative ones. It's no plus the to form of the subjunctive. That'll work out very well for you if you know those conjugations. So there's your 2. Affirmative, a little bit different than the 2. So it's even, if you actually compare them, we've got venir here. We've got venir right here. Ven is the affirmative command. So I would say, come here. Ven aquí. But if I say, don't come here. No vengas aquí. Pretty significant difference between those 2 commands. But just follow the rules. Know your your affirmative commands are different than your negative commands in the 2 form. When we go to usted now, it's a little bit easier in that your usted commands are your affirmative commands are your subjunctive forms. Whatever your usted subjunctive conjugation is, that third person singular, which is formed by going to yo form, dropping yo, opposite ending. Of course, there's more to it because of what the subjunctive rules are. It's the same rules here. I'll show you some examples in a minute, but whatever that form is the exact same thing in the negative. So in order to make your negative command, you are just going to use this. You're going to put no in front of whatever your usted command is. So hable was your command. No hable is your negative command. Coma is your affirmative command. No coma. Escriba is affirmative. No escriba is your negative. So works out really well. And you can see some examples here of a lot of even the changes. I go through, you can see, you know, hable and coma. If I'm making them negative, I just put no in front of this exact form. And even when we got to repita, here's the first example of a stem changing verb. You know, just if you know your rules, but that's what every one of these verbs at the very end of the line, these are all the subjunctive usted conjugations, even with spell changers, stem changers, irregulars. See all the irregulars here? Those are still irregular in the subjunctive present tense subjunctive. They're irregular here in the usted conjugation of the commands. Okay, I'm going to slide on over to ustedes, which is identical to what we just did, but you are going to have an N at the end. That should not have an O there, but you're going to put an N, whatever your conjugation was in the usted. Ustedes is the same thing, just has an N at the end of it. It is the ustedes conjugation for the present tense subjunctive. So if you look at this list of verbs right here, hablen, coman, escriban, going all the way down, even paguen and busquen, empiecen, those are all the subjunctive conjugations of ustedes. Negative command, identical, just with no in front of it. So whatever you had for your form there, you're putting no in front of that conjugation. Now, this one, earlier in the year, when I said this, we're going to do this más tarde, but we've now done it. So we did our you know, affirmative and negative of each of these. So the affirmative, I didn't know this would be that big, and negative, affirmative, and negative. Just a quick review. You know, this more or less is going to be in the subjunctive. This more or less is going to be in the subjunctive. This more or less is going to be in this. Whatever the subjunctive form is going to be this. This is going to be 100%. Negative command of nosotros is the nosotros subjunctive command. Nosotros present tense subjunctive conjugation. The negative vosotros command is going to be the vosotros present tense subjunctive conjugation. The you know, when it's a negative command, you just have no in front of the conjugation. So if we've got, you know, don't speak, it's hablar, AR verb, no hables. Let's not talk, you know, no hablemos. We'll use the, you know, just put no in front of the conjugation. When it's affirmative, let's talk, hablemos. You know, let's listen to this, escuchemos. So affirmative commands right there. Now this one is a little bit different. It's actually one of the easier ones, I think, in that you are going to just write in the, you're just going to take your infinitive and you replace the R of the infinitive, like hablar, with the, instead of hablar here, we're going to put a D there. So use a D instead of the R of the infinitive. And those work out great. Now, we have talked about a little bit of the object pronouns with them. If you have a reflexive object pronoun attached to an affirmative command that you would use with our nosotros and vosotros, with nos here and os here, you are going to get rid of the S in the nosotros command of the ending of the conjugation and add nos to it. So if you had, you know, levantar, it should be levantemos, EMOS. But when it's nosotros, it's a reflexive verb, you add nos to that verb, and you would think it would be levantemos nos, but you actually get rid of the S and you get levantémonos, no S in between the O and the N of the ending, levantémonos. So a little bit of an exception there. And then same thing, vosotros also has a little bit of an exception. You get rid of the D whenever you have a reflexive verb, you get rid of the D. Except for with ear, you keep the D there. So if you're not sure what I'm talking about, you can go watch those videos again, nosotros and vosotros commands. They are separate videos, but go ahead if you don't know what I'm talking about with the when I'm mentioning the object pronouns of those conjugations. Go back and watch each of those videos, and I explain that a little more in depth.